Good morning, everyone. This is Lori Wood. I am a certified divorce coach, specialist, and certified mediator. And we're here once again with my favorite person, Shannon, who's joined me today. And we're going to talk about holidays after divorce and, getting through them as best we can, what emotions we're feeling, and maybe something that she's been through or that I've experienced in my 30 years of doing this can help somebody else get through them. I know that holidays are very overwhelming and difficult to go through when everything in your life is perfect, and then when your life changes or gets turned upside down and you're separated or break up or divorce or any other difficulty, it can just really bring someone into a very, very dark place. And so we want to talk about that dark place today and see how we can maybe help somebody avoid their darkest moments and maybe give them some tools to see something brighter in the future, or know that they're not alone at the very, very least, to know that whatever you're feeling is valid, it's natural, and whatever we can do to make somebody's experience a little brighter, we're going to do. So Shannon, welcome. Thank you for being here today. I always love having you because you just make me smile just by showing up. So thank you so much. And we were kind of talking a little bit before I hit record, just bracing Shannon, because I never tell her what's coming until she sits in front of me today. And in fact, you were saying you just had this conversation about somebody about the holidays. And so first I want to just let the audience know you've been separated for a while, and your divorce wrapped up in the beginning of 2021. And so this is technically your first holiday divorce.
First holiday divorce.
Right.
This is actually, I think it's the third round of holidays where it's been weird.
Wow.
Yeah, because the first two were weird.
So can we touch on the first two and then see what's different between that and actually when the divorce papers are done?
Yeah.
And let's just start there. The first year, you guys were separated?
I think he had just moved out.
Okay.
And that was like in October, something like that. So it was like right before Thanksgiving, right before Christmas. And the way that our dynamic was, he had a big family, I didn't. And so we typically spent the major holidays with his family. And they did like a lot of the big family stuff, right? And so with my family, we're super chill. There's only a few of us. I think at that point there was only, I guess maybe my two nephews. So we just always kind of did secondary stuff with my family.
So his family was the main event, the big
yes. And that was like the first year. And normally I was such a big part of like the planning, the menu, the cooking, like all of the women, we all got together.
Wow.
And so this was like the first time that I know that I was left off all of the text threads, right? I wasn't even invited. And I don't know what the circumstances were where it was like, let's just leave Shannon alone kind of a thing. But I honestly was like, I don't even know if I'm going to see my quote unquote husband at the time, because we were just, he had moved out, but we were still married. Yeah. We're still working on things.
Like on a break or trying to figure things out. And I think a lot of people there's traditions, but the families are blended.
Yeah.
And for his family to be the main focus, you're not just going through a transition in your home with your own relationship.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden all the traditions are changing. And you probably didn't even, who would have thought about that when, you're making that decision.
Yeah.
But then it's just
we just think that that's how it'll be forever. And you're just like making these memories. I mean, I had been in the family for over 10 years at that point. And him and I had the longest relationship in the family. So it was like, I was there from the start.
You were the mainstay.
And and so it just was like, okay, so I'm not gonna, I'm not a part of the planning. I'm clearly not invited. I took that very personally. And then it was just like not really knowing how much of an effort he was going to make. And so it was a big part of our relationship, or at least the downfall of it was just like the constant disappointment, just, I'm going to be there, but then something comes up, whatever. So it was like having to go into it thinking like, okay, I'm going to be the third wheel with my family, because he was never involved in my family stuff. It was always about his. So in some weird way, at least flashing forward, like doing things with my family is a lot less painful because he was not really a big part of that.
Got it.
We made more of an effort with his family and not so much with mine. So I'm trying to think like with Thanksgiving, I think I honestly don't even remember what I did. It was that insignificant to me. I don't know if I spent time with my sister or my parents. That first Christmas, I just chose to be by myself. I was too ashamed to be with my family, knowing that I was going there alone or that I wasn't welcome, with his family. And so he randomly showed up at the house, I want to say like Christmas Day. And he came in and I should have been happy. And I was just pissed off at him because I'm like, this is Christmas and like you're dropping by to like give me a present. Like we should have been making plans.
Right.
So I remember that was like really, really difficult pill to swallow, where it wasn't even like he was making plans with me. It was like he had his family, he was doing his thing, and he was just kind of like
pacifying you with stopping by.
Yeah, just like, oh, I'll just stop by. And I just remember I just crying. I just didn't want him there. Just didn't want him there. So I spent the holidays that first year by myself because I had so much shame and I was embarrassed.
So I want to focus on that for a minute because I know the circumstances of your demise, and certainly a marriage takes two.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to sit here and say that you were perfect because we all, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that contribute.
Yeah.
I do know, and if it's okay to say that he was unfaithful, and that was ultimately what caused the move out and all that stuff. But it's so awful that we carry shame and embarrassed, and we go to this dark place and choose to isolate and spend our day alone and so miserable, when it's not that divorce is something to be proud of. It's sad that it's so common, but you had nothing, the shame that you put on yourself. I don't want everybody to do that because it's not necessary. You have nothing to be ashamed of. I know that you tried and you wanted it to work and it didn't. And sometimes that's just got to be okay.
Yeah.
When there's nothing shameful about it. And I know that your family would not have imposed those views on you. I think this was self-imposed.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Like I was, it was like, I didn't want people to feel bad for me. I didn't want them to feel sorry for me.
Right.
But I literally like ordered pizza. There was like some like round table or something was open. I remember that day. And I was like, I'm just going to order pizza and I'm just going to have pizza by myself.
Did you eat the whole pizza? I would eat the whole
probably,
pizza.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so
I just did my own thing just because I was like, I was too ashamed and like didn't want to show my face in front of my friends and family because I knew that I would probably be so emotional and I was so selfishly focused on myself that it was like, how am I going to go and pretend like I'm having fun with my parents and my sibling and my nephews, and like when I just know that it's going to be really difficult for me to get outside of myself. And that's not fair to anyone else.
No, but I think it was,
fair to my family.
The reasons that you stayed home, the shame and all that stuff, if I could take that from people going through it, I certainly would. I think that was maybe the smarter choice because we shouldn't have to pretend that we're okay when we're not. Yes. And we don't want to ruin anybody else's time with being so overly emotional. And frankly, at that stage of the game, the family's probably heard it. They know what you're going through if you've shared. And, maybe that was just the smarter choice to do that, as difficult as it was. I know it's very difficult to speak to anybody after a divorce because when people come up and they say, how are you? And they find out you're going through that, then they tilt their head and you get the, I'm so sorry. And you feel...
You're like, there's other things that are going on in my life that we can talk about.
But you feel defined by it. And it's not a good feeling to have somebody feel sorry for you. Right. It's just not.
Yeah.
So I can certainly understand that. So that was your first Christmas.
That was the first one. And then the next year we had already filed. And I think at that point, I knew that I was going to feel sensitive about it just because of how the year before went. But it was like, at least this year I knew, right? Like we've already made the decision to divorce.
Right.
There's no what ifs. Exactly. And it just is like, okay, I'm going to have to figure out my own things to do. But then of course in my family, with my sister, she has her in-laws, right? And so they, are building their own traditions where, on Thanksgiving or day after, whatever it is, they're going to be gone. And same thing for Christmas. So I kind of had to figure out what was I going to do? Because I knew that, Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, I was probably going to be by myself, right? Like I wasn't going to have my sister
because that's when you normally would be with this family.
Yep, exactly. And so I know. And my parents always felt, I think, a little sensitive. I don't think they ever really said anything, but I think they did feel like very secondary, especially for like the big holidays. And we had open communication about it where it was like, they make a big deal out of the holidays. And that's just kind of what our tradition had become. So I think my parents always felt like, we'll just take the back seat. We'll take the day after, the day before, whatever it was. And so I think that they kind of felt like, okay, well, maybe this time around we'll get priority for the holidays,
share,
right? Yeah. But even last year, it was kind of this, almost like you are kind of feeling stuck to traditions and doing things sometimes you just don't want to do, where I listen to all of my friends or like my sister, just like oh my gosh, we have to go all the way out there and bring all the kids and make the food. And then we don't get home till late. And then we got to buy all the Christmas. So you hear everyone kind of like, kind of bitch about it.
Yeah, there's no enjoyment in it anymore. It's a job. Yeah.
And I just remember, like, I think just going through all the divorce stuff in general, like my motto had kind of become like, stop doing the things you don't want to do. And so I think it was just like letting go of the guilt and the shame or whatever, and just being like, either I want to do this or I don't. I want to spend time with my family. The holidays do mean something to me, but it could also just be something different. We could go somewhere. We could do something.
Right.
Presents aren't a big thing in my family. So that was kind of always something a little bit, not a lot of stress about. But if it was just kind of felt empowering, I guess, to say, like, if I wanted to be alone on Thanksgiving, or if I wanted to go to my friend's house, because that just brought, I wouldn't say more joy, but it was more distracting, to be perfectly honest. Like, my family, I knew they would understand. And so that's just kind of, I think, the theme that has kind of led into even this year, where, I want to be able to spend that time with my family, do the holiday thing, but also like know that if I didn't want to do something, I don't have to, and I can spend time with my family in a way that makes sense for us, but it may not be what everyone else. It's not traditional for everybody else.
And that's okay. I love
and that's okay.
And so many things you touched on. Number one, I think, and respectfully, but people, if it doesn't give us joy and it's not something we have to do, we shouldn't do it, because somebody else might want to do something with that same thing with that person. And it might be a better experience for them. But we're so used to pleasing everybody or doing what we think we're supposed to, that it becomes very difficult. Excuse me. I went through a divorce before the holidays myself many years ago. I mean, I separated 2013, divorced in 2015, but we made this pact that we're divorcing so maturely, and we still like each other, even though our roles have shifted, but we will spend all major holidays together as a family. That was very, very difficult and complicated. And it's not that there's a right or a wrong way to do this, but there's still a lot of emotions involved.
Sure.
And you're at a Christmas with your ex-husband when you spent Christmas with him as a husband. And it's very weird. It was odd for the first 3 years.
Yeah.
And then when a divorce is like death, I lost my mom 3 years ago, right before Christmas. All the traditions went out the window. So no matter what the reason is that causes these traditions to no longer be, it's very difficult emotionally to step out of your box and think of how to create new ones or do what you want to do.
Yeah.
And I love that you're kind of living your life now. If I don't want to do it, and it's not like taxes or going to work or anything like that, then you're not going to.
It feels very selfish. And I think it's trying to not make it come across that way. But I just think that, like, Mother's Day, for example, when my sister became a mom, like it's almost like you have to look at, well, we would celebrate my mom and my mom would celebrate her mom. And at what point, like, does it, like, do you get to, like, I think for my sister, it was like, well, when do we get to celebrate? Like, it's your Mother's Day,
right?
Like, do we really need to always have a big brunch or do this? Like, could we just think about celebrating this holiday in a different way, where if you want to sit at home and, not do anything because you're a mom now, then you should be able to do that. And that's okay. We can still call mom. We can still send her flower. I mean, whatever it is, but it's kind of like not feeling guilty about making this big deal over something that it doesn't, like, you could celebrate it in your own way and still get that love and whatever. And I think a lot of people feel like, oh, well, we have to do this. We have to have the big Easter dinner. We have to do the Father's Day thing. And it's like, you can, if that's what works for you, but you could also just do something different. And
I love that, because it's the thought, and people just want to be thought of, and they want to know that you love them. And however that works out.
And like, you're not guilted into do something because that's just what we've done before. That's what you should do. I think it's just like, I just know for my family, like, we've had to just like have those conversations and just be open about it. And just, if something just doesn't work traditionally for us, then I think that's okay.
And that is totally okay. I mean, so many people, myself included, I spent years because you have your husband's family and then you have my family. And then if your parents were divorced, then there's two sets of those. And so every Christmas, we would be at one place for Christmas Eve, and then we'd run home, put the stuff away, then we'd get up and we'd run to the next place, and then we'd come home, throw those gifts in the house, grab the next set of gifts and run. And it became stressful, overwhelming.
And someone always gets their feelings hurt.
No joy.
Yeah,
absolutely. And there was no enjoyment.
Yeah.
And it's just not what the holidays are supposed to be about.
No.
You're supposed to be happy, thankful.
Yeah.
And finding joy in the people that you're spending it with, whatever that looks like. Now, since my mom's passing, my sister or I have a breakfast Christmas Day, and we stay in our pajamas. I travel in my pajamas one day a year, and that's to go to her house on Christmas Day. And we do what we want to do.
Yeah.
And if somebody gets their feelers hurt, and we've included people or, whatever, it's their option.
Yeah.
But I don't think what you're doing is selfish. We all need to do the things that we want to do.
Yeah.
In addition to the things that we have to do, but there's no wrong way of doing it.
Yeah.
So the first year you chose to spend alone.
Yeah.
The second year you tried to do things a little differently.
Yeah. I think there was a good balance. I think of like seeing my, my parents or my sister, or my, nephews but then also, a lot of friends, kind of have complicated situations with their families, or maybe some of their families don't live here. And so I think just like leaning into that a little bit too. I've probably spent more time maybe with friends too, just to kind of supplement. I think it's really important, right? I wanted to spend time with my family. Don't get me wrong. I just think that it's, I think for, whatever it was, Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, I chose to, make other plans with other people. So I still saw my family.
Right.
But I didn't feel like I was stuck to, well, I have to spend both those days with them.
Right. Was it easier to be with your friends because then the former relationship is not front and center as it is when you're with your family? You're more reminiscent of
you're in a family dynamic, right? And how do you not think about, having your spouse with you, and, we didn't have kids, but we wanted kids. So then you're surrounded by families, happy families, and you're not a happy family.
And then they have the picture that you wanted.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think my oldest nephew, he would say stuff like, "Where's Uncle, blah, blah, blah."
Right.
And it's just like, oh.
And it's the innocent little out of the mouth of babes, but it's like you've been kicked in the stomach or poked in the heart.
Yeah.
And so this year, as you said, this is 3 years in.
So this is the third round of holidays where I don't have a significant other. And
so let's talk a little bit about, because I know that things in your life are going, just the difference from where you were when we first met to where you are today is incredible. And I couldn't be more happy. It couldn't happen for a nicer person. And you've done the work.
Yeah.
You've really taken the steps and used tools to get yourself from eating a whole pizza, crying on Christmas Day, feeling ashamed, to, a happy, well-rounded, beautiful woman who's working on herself, getting in shape, all these beautiful things. But still the pang from the holidays can come back.
Yeah.
So this year, what are we doing?
Well, so even for Thanksgiving this year, I did a turkey trot. And that was just something where it was I think I probably would have felt like, okay, I'm stuck to something, but this was something new. Right. Went with a few friends. So it was almost like prioritizing your time for that day. So it was I went and did a turkey trot, try to get credit for all the calories I was going to ingest. But then, I went home and then went to my parents' house, and I literally just spent time with just my parents for a few hours and had dinner with them. And that was my Thanksgiving. And then I came home and probably started a fire in my fireplace.
I didn't burn anything left to fix.
No, I started a fire, had some wine, and it was a lovely evening. And I didn't feel the guilt of having to be with like stuck at a place that because I just would remember this, especially my in-laws, and it was like you had to just be there until a certain time, until everyone was done. And it just was nice that I was like, spend time with my friends and spend time with my family. But at some point I was like, I was ready to go. And that was okay. Control of your own life. I had control of that. And it was, I think that's like probably the biggest thing is like, even when you go and hang out with your friends, like at some point, like I remember thinking like, gosh, I'm ready to go. I'm tired. Right. I got to feed my dogs, whatever it is. And just like being okay with like, when you show up, you don't have to be there for 7 hours. You can just show up and be like, okay, I got to get going. And that's okay.
I think that's the part that we want to drive home and that was probably, I'm going to guess, and you correct me if I'm wrong, one of your best Thanksgivings because you were in control of it.
Yes.
And that's the thing.
Didn't feel stuck anywhere.
Right. We are so busy all year long doing the things that we think we're supposed to and doing things for everybody else that when Christmas time comes, I mean, most of us are high stress, ball of a wreck, angry, overwhelmed, stressed out, tired, all of the things.
Yeah.
And if more people, I mean, you did the turkey trot. You may not want to do it next year. It doesn't mean because you did it this year, it has to be the tradition.
Yeah.
You get to create and design whatever the heck you want to do.
And you can say no.
Right. And no is explanation enough.
Yes.
It doesn't require any more than that. You don't need to go
into all just, there's a book that it's a parody of a book, but it's like the subtle art of not giving a FUCK. And I had given it to a friend and I bought one for myself. And it's just kind of these funny things where it literally just talks about like, it's okay to say no. Like I remember being overwhelmed with friend things, they all got their husbands and kids and whatever. And there was just some times where I'd say, no, I can't make it.
And
I can't make that kid's birthday party. I can't make this couple's night because I'm going to show up by myself.
Right.
That just isn't like, I want to spend time with you. It's just not that way. And that's okay. You can just say no.
The first time you said no, did you feel weird about it? Did you have to stop yourself from saying
You totally
more?
Feel like you have to explain yourself, but it's just sometimes it's okay to just say like, hey, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to make it.
Yeah, no is not a bad word. And it doesn't require any more explanation. And I don't know where we've lost that.
Yeah.
Trying to make everybody happy because in doing so, we're making ourselves absolutely crazy.
Yes. And that's where at least for me, like a lot of my, like when I would be triggered or when I would kind of revert back to the sadness, it would be that feeling of overwhelm where it was like, well, this is what we did last year. This is what we always used to do for these holidays. And I would just overbook myself all the time.
Right.
And so I think the distraction is helpful, but it's like a double-edged sword. And so I think it just, for me, I know that my balance is just having to just say no or just say, hey, I'll come and spend time with you, but I got to leave by this time and that's okay. And so it felt good to be able to do that. Like I felt like I got what I needed to accomplish on Thanksgiving in terms of like who I wanted to spend time with.
Right.
But I didn't feel like I had to, spend more time than was needed. I needed some alone time, I think at some point, right?
You got to do what was expected or what you felt your family needed.
Yeah.
And you got to take care of yourself at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think that is such a beautiful thing. And we're talking about boundaries a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think more people should read that book or just understand that no is not a dirty word.
Yeah.
It's okay to say, and you have the right to say it. But we get, one more thing. We'll just take that on. Oh, I could do that. Or sure, I'll be there. And then pretty soon you're cussing under your breath and you're breaking things at home. And that fire may not start in the fireplace next time when people go post. Probably shouldn't say, but people lose their minds.
Yeah.
But we were talking a little bit before we started recording about boundaries that you set for yourself. So not just boundaries on time management and boundaries on not doing things that you don't want to do. But for people who are going through this, and like you said, the first Christmas, your ex-husband just showed up at the door and it caused that reaction. For people in the same space, it's difficult. Sometimes it can be very triggering. And if you don't have to see the other person, if you're not exchanging children or that kind of thing, maybe it's better to set boundaries and have no contact for a little while. Can you tell me kind of what has worked for you emotionally to get you through?
I think if I could go back in time, I definitely would have been more communicative about those boundaries. Because I think I was so focused on, I had so much anger over just the principle of like the fact that he had moved out, didn't want to move back home. So that to me was like that was just a trigger in itself of like, it's the holidays and like we should have been more clear about plans to either see each other or not see each other.
Right.
There was a lot of what ifs, right? Because for me, it was like, well, your family purposefully didn't invite me. But that totally could have not been the case. It could have been like, hey, we don't want to bug her. We don't know where her headspace is at, so we'll just leave her alone. If she wants to come, she'll ask.
Right.
So that
or
totally
they may
could have
have
been
not known what to do, so they just froze.
It might have just been so awkward. Of course, in my mind, though, it was like, they hate me.
Sure.
He's told them all the lie. It was that whole thing. So I think I just was already going into it with a lot of anger. So I probably should have told him, I don't want to see you.
Right.
And maybe that's just, or we should have been more clear about like, you're going to come over on this day and like, this is what our plan is.
I will see you at this time and this is what we can expect.
And
it's the unknown that can really F you up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So going back in time, I wish I would have, felt better about creating boundaries. But this, I mean, I think with this year, or at least the last like 2 years of just, and outside of holidays, right, is just, is being more clear about like, I either can do this, I can't do this, or I can do this, but only for a limited amount of time, and just like letting go of the guilt. And like, it's sort of this like, well, what's the worst that could happen? It's like with your family and friends, like you still have to put something in, right? So when it does, so for like this Christmas, I was telling you, like, yes. I talked to my family about going out of town for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. And I knew that they weren't going to be upset with me because I spend such quality time in other ways. And I put in, I give, I love my family, they mean the most to me. But to feel like, oh, well, because it's this day, you have to, do this. And again, the holidays are still a little triggering for me. And so I have this opportunity to go up to Tahoe for a few days and like snowboard and just like hang out with some friends that don't have family around and that are single. And it just, to me, like that is honestly like what puts me in a better headspace. And so I've already made, alternative plans with my family, right? To be like, to see my nephews, my niece, like do presents and all that stuff. But just because it traditionally may not be on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day.
And I think that's wonderful because I know you love your family.
Yeah.
You've spoken about your family and there is no part of you that doesn't appreciate love or want to be with your family.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. You show love all year long.
Exactly.
You have a strong relationship, a give and take on both sides.
Yeah.
You support each other, love each other all year long. And it's like Mother's Day. We don't just appreciate our mother on Mother's Day.
Exactly.
We should show them how much we love them and care about them. Sorry, I'll get teary with that, with the mother being part, all year long. So I think that it's so fantastic that you have found the strength or made the decision, because the strength has been there all the time, to say, these are the things that are going to make me happy. Yeah. Let's find a happy medium because I love and care about you and I want to spend time with you. But this is what would give me joy. So what can we do with that? How do you feel about that? And having the conversation and ultimately not being at a place that's going to be triggering or that is not the right time, day, whatever. There's no Christmas police that are going to come and arrest you for not celebrating on Christmas Day.
That's the thing. What's the worst that could happen? Like, again, like I'm going to see, my sister and the kids on Christmas Eve day. Like I'm making that commitment, right? I'm not going to leave until after that. But, we had talked about doing dinner that night. And so I did have to, I had to call my sister up and say, how would you feel if I wasn't there?
Right.
And she's like, well, what am I going to say? No. And it wasn't about like, well, I'm not going to hold you hostage here. It was just like, well, let's just find something alternative, because I really want the kids to have that experience. Right. So again, it's not just about me. It's what the kids need or what my sister needs or what my parents need. And that's really important.
What works for everybody. I mean, we just went through COVID, which is something that none of us went through. And we've just spent all this time without family.
Yeah.
And there are families that don't live near us. And there are families that have other people in the family they have to see. And it's 2 days or a night and a day that we're supposed to cram all this into.
Yes.
So there's nothing wrong with Saturday Christmas, or we'll get you on the Thursday before.
Yeah.
It's the quality time that you spend with them.
100%.
It doesn't matter what day of the calendar it is.
I'm just like, it makes me so sad when I see my friends or just other family members get like so stressed out about it. And it's like, it just totally takes away from
everything it's supposed to be.
It's like, we should be able to like spend time together. And I think that's the thing I love about my family is like, we've always been a very flexible family. Like, I think we were always traditionally a very like routine, in terms of the holidays. But I think when we went to like, we're college age, I was broke, right? We couldn't afford presents. And so I think we just had sort of informally decided we weren't going to do presents. We would rather spend time with each other. And I am lucky that my family lives very, very close to me. And so I see them all the time, and so for this year, I'm doing, like for my 2 older nephews, like I'm gifting them experiences. I'm making little cheesy coupons for, auntie dates, but like I'm specifically, taking one to the railroad museum, and then the other one I'm taking to a different museum. So it's just about like that to me. It's like, yeah, of course you're spending money on it, whatever, but it's like I get a whole day with each kid.
Memories.
Mm-hmm. And that to me is more important than like having to show up and just be like, here's your present.
I love that. And we kind of gotten to that point in my family. My father, as you know, is in the Alzheimer's care home. And I was kind of stressing last Christmas. We couldn't see him but through a tiny little window because of COVID. And my father doesn't know what day it is. Doesn't know if it's birthday or Thursday or Friday. I was sitting there thinking, what do I get him? And the present is to show up. And I absolutely will probably go more days than anything. But traditions change even with the same family dynamic.
Yeah.
When we were young and even into my 30s, we would have to spend Christmas Eve at my mom's as adults. And then we had to take our children there. And it was pretty cute because she always liked to wake us up, but she would set the clocks back. And so she would say it was 6 a.m., but it was 2 a.m. and she would wake us all up, and it would be this big production, which I have the fondest memories of.
Yeah.
It's not what I got as a gift from her. It's the memories that we make.
Totally.
And however you choose to make those memories with the people that are important, whenever you choose to do it, is the greatest gift. We stress so much about, did I get enough for that person? Did I spend enough? Did I get the right gift? And really more people should understand that they are the gift. The family is the gift. Everybody's dynamics have changed, whether it's divorce or death or COVID or distance or whatever. If we could just appreciate what we have more instead of focusing on what we lost or what we're getting, it would just be a much better place. So I know I'm going off on this tangent, but to recap, because you've had some difficult holidays and you still have a little bit of a trigger from them. Yeah. But as the years and the holidays have come, you're choosing to do what authentically makes you happy. Yeah. What would be your advice for anybody listening, struggling to get through the holiday, struggling to not be overwhelmed by the to-do list that's as long as their arm, or making everybody happy, or the perfect this or that? What would your closing words, what would you say?
I think just be empowered by like choice. And I think it's okay to be selfish, because I think that's like, there's such a stigma, right? And being like, oh, I got to think about me. But at some point you do. I'm sorry, but you do. You have to think about yourself. And if you're constantly catering to other people, like that's what you're comfortable. And I think that's what I really struggled with probably the first 2 years. And it wasn't until I gained some weird clarity, right? And probably just because the divorce process for me was so muddy and murky and didn't really know if we were going to make it through or not. Right. I think once it was kind of like, okay, there's no going back from here. It's kind of like, to me, it was like, what's the worst that could happen? What do I have to lose if I choose myself and, over other things? And that doesn't have to be like a long-term thing. It just could be short-term, and just don't feel guilty about choosing yourself. I love that. But be communicative, set the boundaries. If you are somebody who always sees your family, the thing for me was, I would kind of go dark. A lot of my family would be like, what the hell? Like, we haven't heard from Shannon. So they would check in with me. And I realized that it was like, what they needed was just to hear from me, even if it was to say, hey, having a bad day. You know,
check
I'm
out right
doing
now.
fine,
Yeah.
ordered the pizza, I'll be fine. But just, being communicative about what you need and just hoping that you have enough or a good enough support system that they respect your wishes.
I think that is so huge.
Yeah.
Because, and no, I just want to give you kind of my take on that, because I don't think doing what's right for you is selfish at all.
Yeah.
I think everybody else does what's right for them.
Yeah.
And it's unfair not to expect you to do the same. It's not selfish.
Yeah.
It's survival.
Yes.
And it's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And you need to figure out what gives you joy.
Yeah.
And what you want to do and what you are obligated to do. And then be very clear to the people that you love and communicate that to them and carry no guilt and shame. And I know that it's so much easier said than done.
Yeah.
I get that. And a lot of people don't have a support system that would be understanding.
Sure.
But maybe pick a smaller piece of the puzzle and do baby steps.
Yeah.
But if we all did what truly made us happy or gave us the most joy, our friends and family would benefit from us being in a better place.
Totally.
They just would. And, we're the only ones that are going to look out for us. And if people truly want what's best for us, they will want us to be truly happy.
They'll understand. And it's also just about giving the best version of yourself. And
Absolutely.
I mean, it's just truth that there's going to be I still have days where I'm just, in bed crying over something stupid because I saw, a FPCA commercial, but it's you're going to have those days, and I think it's okay.
It's
not a setback. It's just, you got to get it out. I don't know. It's just
sometimes a good cry.
Yeah. I'll probably have a really good one today after this.
Yeah. I might too. I've been separated for a very, very long time and divorced going on 7 years. But every once in a while, there's something that will bring me back or make me think about it or give me that pang. And that's okay. It means that I loved that person.
Yeah.
And that was an important part of my life.
Yeah.
And just like everything else, you can create new traditions. They don't have to be what they once were. And it should be exciting to create them. And life changes on its own. And sometimes change is okay. And we can even create whatever change we want. And that's okay.
And your transition period may take a few years. I mean, if you think about the big holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas, right? It's it's one time during the year.
Right.
And it's taken me, I'm at my third round, right? And I'm still figuring it out.
Right.
And I just think
it may take
okay. And that's the
more.
thing. We don't do the same stuff that I did when I was 8, It's just and I love those memories, waking up on Christmas Day with grandparents, whatever. But I was 8,
right.
that made sense.
Life changes on its own.
So now thinking about either new traditions or just new things that we're doing, it just may take some time. And I just think that we should not feel guilty about that taking time.
That's the thing. We just have to take the guilt part out of it.
Yeah.
Be kind to ourselves and understand that it will take time. It's not because the paperwork is completed that the feelings go away. Yeah. It took years in the relationship. It's going to take time to go through the mourning process.
It's a debt. It's however you grieve that or how you perceive that. I mean, for me, it was 100% a death.
Yeah. And sometimes it has to be, because without the closure or burial or the mourning process, you cannot move forward.
Yeah.
So I guess what we want to tell everybody today is be patient with yourself. Yeah. Set some boundaries so that you don't dread the holidays and spend them not enjoying any moments of it. Be with the ones who love and support you and are okay with you creating your own life, moving forward in your own traditions and your own journey. And know that what you're going through is valid and normal, and you're not alone. And just do something that makes you happy every day, whether it's a nice cup of cocoa with some Baileys in it, whether it's a cup of tea in front of a fire, something that gives you joy every day, no matter how big or small, and just be true to you. Shannon, thank you always for being here with me. You just give me a smile just seeing you. And we will continue to keep bringing you podcasts. Happy holidays to everybody. A very Merry Christmas and a safe and happy New Year. And if I can be of any help, please reach out. LoriDWoodspears.com. Information is on the bottom. Have a great day. Be self, be kind, and be true to yourself.